Good evening to all of you, and thank you for joining us here on 13 Plus. I'm Mary Coleman. Hope you're having a great Monday so far. Well, everyone wants to be healthy, but that's not stopping the rate of diabetes from surging all across our country, and it's only expected to get worse. As our national investigative team learned, while diabetes can be a largely reversible condition, there are barriers keeping some people from getting as healthy as they want.
It's one of the fastest growing diseases in the world. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. We're talking about diabetes. According to a 2023 study, the number of people with a potentially deadly condition is expected to double in the next 25 years.
Unlike chronic diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's, or even arthritis, many people can reverse their risk for type 2 diabetes with diet and exercise.
So why is it such a pervasive problem?
Investigative reporter Kristen Crowley went to Colorado in search of that answer. It's the state with one of the lowest rates of diabetes in the nation.
There she found neighboring towns with major diabetes disparities and shows us some of the promising strides that could help millions facing the disease.
Okay, so my name is Letitia.
Karen, Sierra Howard.
Let us introduce you to three people in two different parts of Colorado with one major fear.
Or are you afraid of getting diabetes?
Yes, very afraid of getting diabetes.
Oh, for sure. Once you know one person with it and you see all of the side effects and things that can happen to them, you're like, I'm a little worried.
Does the idea of getting diabetes scare you?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because I want to be healthy.
Letitia Rodriguez, Sierra Howard, and Karen Buffalo all have a family history of diabetes, and they have good reason to worry. When you have diabetes, it means your body doesn't produce enough insulin or can't use it properly, and it can be deadly. It puts people at risk for cardiovascular disease, kidney failure, and organ damage, especially when untreated. An estimated 38 million Americans have diabetes, and a whopping 96 million have prediabetes, Karen and Letitia included.
Didn't feel anything, so hearing that was hard.
But for many people, it's preventable with a healthy diet and exercise. The friendly outdoors of Colorado has a lot to offer, from biking and hiking to camping and water sports. It's one reason the state touts one of the lowest diabetes rates in the country. But even in a state with seemingly easy access to the outdoors, economic and cultural barriers can get in the way.
I hope they do more cooking classes, though.
Sierra and Letitia live in Weld County, where its largest city, Greeley, has a diabetes rate of 14.2%, a number not just higher than the state of Colorado, but most states in the country. It's more than double the average of Denver's rate.
There's lots of opportunities, to get out and get active.
Public Health Communication Manager for Weld County, Kelly Martinez, says time and money often stand in the way of some residents' healthy lifestyles.
What if you don't have transportation to get to the mountains? What if you don't feel safe walking around your neighborhood? What if you live in a food desert and it's really difficult for you to get healthy foods?
There's a pretty big disparity for the diabetes rates.
Correct.
Why is that?
There's pockets that just aren't being served because of the financial and language barrier, more prevalent here in Weld County.
Nationwide, minorities like Hispanics, Blacks, and Native Americans are at greater risk for diabetes than others. Research shows that's because they often live in neighborhoods that lack access to healthy food and healthcare to get preventative services. Martinez says in Weld County, about 17% of its Hispanic population has diabetes, compared to 10% of its white population. She's on a mission to reverse Weld County's rate. In fact, the entire state wants a lower rate, because even though it has one of the lowest in the country, the disease is still on the rise.
Colorado is the leanest state.
Dr. Ned Colon is Colorado's chief medical officer.
However, I always point that it's like being the best of the worst. Being the leanest state doesn't mean we're lean.
In 1996, Colorado's diabetes rate was less than half what it is today, at 3%. 4 years later, that jumped to 5.1%, and it's steadily increasing.
We know what causes it. We know how to reduce the risk for it. Why are we still seeing rates increase?
It's way easier and less expensive to eat poorly than it is to eat well.
So how does the state slow down this growth trend? By growing its diabetes prevention program through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
We took people and found that if we had them diet and exercise, we actually reduced the progression to type 2 diabetes by almost 50%. And that's where diabetes prevention really took off.
The YMCA runs diabetes prevention programs in person and virtually in portions of the state.
Keep the plate visual in your mind.
Karen is taking it for the first time.
You kind of learn about portions, how much to eat, how much is good for you, what are good options. You know, I think before I kind of knew more fresh foods, less processed, but then they add to that.
She's already seeing a difference.
The weight is down 9 pounds, so that's really good for me. My A1C will test it next month, but my doctor said she's sure it's going to be lower. The numbers are there. We know that this works.
Amy Sagendorf, who helps run the program through the Y, says most people who take the course have similar outcomes like Karen, but only a fraction of those who need it take it. Back in Weld County, for the past 5 years, people could take the program through the health system, but it would cost them up to $600. In an attempt to break down economic and cultural barriers, for the first time, the program is now free and in Spanish for the population most at risk.
Our goal is to reduce the diagnosis of diabetes by 5% within the next 5 years.
I'm going to do a class once every month.
Letitia's walking proof change can happen. She's no longer pre-diabetic.
If it weren't for a diabetes prevention program, do you think you would still be pre-diabetic?
I think I probably would be pre-diabetic still.
Now her goal is staying that way and hopefully helping Weld County reduce its numbers along the way.
Weld County has already seen some success. Its rate was more than 11% when we started working on this report. After our interviews, new numbers from the state show it's dropped to 9.4%.
As we mentioned, this is a national problem.
The CDC partners with hospitals and wellness centers across the country to offer its diabetes prevention program.
It's a year-long course available in person or online. The cost depends on the specific program and insurance coverage.
You can find an in-person program near you or explore virtual options. We have that link on investigatetv.com. Just search diabetes disparities.